I think somebody in the chat says that she's 53. She 53?
Yeah. I was gonna ask how old was she at the time, like specifically. Was she 16? Was she 17? Like I was gonna ask that because for a mother, I mean, like Hank said, imagine if, you swap out Nia Long for a 30-year-old male on that same exact panel we just saw her on. And the male said, yeah, I dated a high school girl. I mean, I went to her mom and her dad and I said, I'd like to date your daughter. I'm going to take good care of her. Imagine if, like, an actor or like Chris Rock's, just a random black actor, went up there and said that. They would have gotten crucified no matter how the procedure went in terms of, can I date your daughter, how polite they were. That would have been a whole different news story, versus them sitting up there giggling about it. And I think we're gonna see they try to flip this around a lot, in terms of older men dating. And I don't mean just younger women, what I'm saying? Most men date younger, but I'm talking about like that predatory distance of age, where you're talking about 40s and 17, the Leonardo DiCaprio type of situation that they've been talking about in the news. They're going to try to flip this around to make it seem acceptable. They're going to throw sprinkle a little caveat in there that makes it appear like, well, he talked to the mom and the mom was okay with it, and him and the father are good buddies. They play golf. It's not acceptable, yo. I mean, I know this is something that happened, but think about it. Think if you have a girl that's like 18, 17, 18 years old, right? Say if the parents or the family is in dire straits, they're not financially set. And then here comes this multimillionaire that wants to date their daughter. In most cases, in a trailer park situation, they're gonna turn a blind eye to it or be accepting of it because they feel like that's something that could benefit them socially, economically. But the only person that's suffering is the child, essentially, because she is still a child. I mean, she has the ability to make choices, but in some capacity, she's still a child. What do they have to talk about? When they sit down at the table, what is the conversation? You know what I mean? So I
Where
think
did
you're
they
gonna see.
meet? Go ahead, Jay. No,
Right.
go ahead, Jay.
No, no, no. You good. You good. I was done.
Something I was going to ask is, what does the mom being an artist have to do with anything? Like, like I can kind of I understand where she's getting at, like free spirit, whatever. But this is your child that you're raising, and there's things called morals. I didn't know art changed that. I just think it's weird. I'm because this conversation could get really deep. So many different things, we could discuss. But I'm just wondering where they even met to begin with for a 30-year-old. And can we confirm she was 18, or do we know? Does anyone know?
But,
I'm gonna look into it.
but Coach K, even if she was 18, I
Right.
done seen on some panels where it doesn't matter. He's still wrong for that.
Oh, right, right.
We seen
It's
it
the
on
moral,
panels,
legal,
but yeah, they said it was still wrong for an 18-year-old to be dating a 30-year-old be dating an 18. That's still a 12-year gap. That's four high school classes. I
So
mean, God,
what do you guys think is like an acceptable age gap in your opinion?
I
to
will
me,
say,
five,
go
maybe
ahead.
10, maybe.
Well, like I think it starts. I think it starts once they're grown.
Yes.
Once they turn, like I would say, the age of like 21, then that's when
Yes.
I think you can start. See, I just had this conversation, and one of the things that I said was, I think 5 is a good number. I think 5 years is a good number because even if you think about it, you think about somebody that's dating somebody 10 years older. As you guys keep getting older, that person is going to tremendously has the possibility of slowing down, of being a completely different person because they're 10 years ahead. I think somebody, if the closer you are, the more understanding you have because your bodies are aging together, and I think the outlook is a little bit different. But people that try to dip down and say that they their age like 54 and they're trying to date somebody that's 30, it's not gonna work out. I have an uncle that's like that. He dated somebody, but I think he was just looking somewhere to he had a child with her, and then somewhere to kind of dump whatever it is that he had, kind of pass it along to somebody. I mean, I think that's what his goal was, because he slowed down. And I'm not saying that she looks miserable or anything like that, but you can just see the difference. Like, he can't move the same way that she can move. So I'm gonna answer that question 5 years.
I think that age gap should come into play when they're old enough to rent a car. What is a car rental? What are they, like 25, 24, something
25.
like that? 25? Like, that is in place for a reason, you know. I don't know what reason, but that's in 25, you know. But
I do got to put this in there too. In some other countries, I think that they do things at a younger age. So I think here in America, I think we run things a little bit differently. So over there,
But
sometimes
Her mom is from a different country as well, so that could play a part in why she allowed it.
you know what's so interesting? Like we have this conversation about age, age gap dating, and yet at 18 you could be in the armed forces, you could smoke. At 21 you could buy booze, right?
in America.
In America.
Vote at 18.
And vote at 18, right? Which is a serious privilege, you know? And at 25, be able to rent a vehicle from any established business enterprise. So we say that these people are young, but yet we give them so much power and autonomy at a perceived young age, right? From voting to smoking to all these other recreational activities. So at what point do we really start to kind of separate the cord and say that these are full-fledged adults making adult-like decisions? I get the whole, she's in high school and he's 30. I think that's very predatory in a way. But I mean, if we really, really look at the numbers and look at people who are getting married, 34% of all marriages are people who are within 1 or 2 years of each other. You know, once you get into like 4 or 5 year gap, that's like 12%, and then it just keeps going down. So that like 10 plus 15, that's a very small pool of people who are even within that range. And I think that it's just more of an allure, a temporary allure that people kind of gravitate to. They, he's much older, much wiser, and I can understand why that's so appealing to young women, especially, young women who might not had a very positive, male presence in their life, right? Because I'm sure any father, Putin father in that situation would be like, no, this is not happening. I'm cutting this right here, right? So back to that, like that age thing, it's like, at what point do we really, really kind of cut the cord at saying that these are adult people making adult decisions, since we've given them so much power and autonomy at such a young age?
I think it depends on the intentions as far as just the marriage and stuff goes. I mean, sometimes in this conversation, I think of like maybe, towns or, I mean, I went to an all girl high school, so it was different with as far as dating goes. I mean, there was the guys high school, but, with the senior dating the freshman or dating like the 8th grader, whatever. But I'm imagining, let's say a guy is getting his master's, and he's on campus and meets his wife, and she's a sophomore. So he's already graduated. He's going to be much older. But I think it just depends, again, on the intention of what they're going for. And if they have some type of plan. But it's like these days, I mean, I don't know if I can talk because I don't have kids, but it's like you don't even have adults, at least mentally and emotionally adults, raising adults. You know what I mean? So it's like I think if parents would be parents, it'd probably be a different conversation, but that's just wishful thinking. So I don't know if that even answers it, but.
Yeah, I think intent matters a lot too, because even Nia Long, like she said, she dated this man, so they didn't marry, right? Like, what was the purpose of this? it was just a situation that ended when she was in high school? Like, I'm so confused. So this 30-year-old man that you did whatever with, he didn't marry you. So what was his intent for one? Some men say, I want a younger woman because she's fertile. She, you know, she could raise my family. We could have children. They didn't do any of that. You didn't marry her. You didn't produce any children with her. So what were you doing with this younger woman? I just don't, the logic isn't there for me. So I don't really understand that. I'm not against men saying they want a younger wife because they want fertility and all these things. But to go to high school and then you didn't even marry her, that doesn't make sense in my brain. So I don't know.
And then you'll see people laugh about that. That's comical. But I've seen a 19-year-old get persecuted for dating a 17-year-old. Like, you know, once upon a time, they were freshman and junior, sophomore and senior, you know, and then once you take it out of there, you know, you watch them get persecuted for that in that little window. But they're trying to make it acceptable. And I mean, you know, it's almost like, what's the balance? Because in some cultures, you know, there's a rite of passage in terms of you're the man, you have to come to the family and take the wife, you know, show that you're worthy to take the wife away from the father, you know. So when you kind of mix those cultures, it's like you might have a lot more situations like that. So how do you deal with them, especially if there's like a huge age gap?
All right. I think we might anybody else want to chime in on this?
Everybody's so peaceful today. Go ahead, Precious.
I think, you know, when I don't remember when Nia Long when her whole career started. I'm pretty sure not in high. Was she in high school? Was she not in high school? I don't know. Was it after that? Her stepsister is some more.
She was.
It was in high school. So you have to understand that she and I'm not saying that it was right what the dynamic that they had, because it was a dating dynamic. But you know, nowadays you hear men saying that they want younger women, right? We want younger women, we want younger women. Whatever age that is whatever age that is. And most times women will date up. Well, when you date too far up, your outlook on men, your outlook on being in relationships with men, I think are more warped when you go as far up like that. Because like you guys were saying, at some point that man slows down. He's not going to be, you know, moving like you're moving. You're not going to desire him anymore, because now he's going to be an old man and not just your man. He's going to be your old man, you know, so he's not going to look the same. Things probably not going to work the same. So when you date too far up, you know, as a woman, you have to definitely take that into consideration. You know, you have your youth, you have your beauty, and it's going to fade at some point, but his is fading a lot sooner. And like Coach K said about morals, it's like 30 and a high schooler, you know, and this don't only happen with older men and younger women. This happens with older women and younger men. There's a lot of younger men who the first time they had sex was with an older woman. If people want to really, really keep it real, like it was with an older woman. And so now they got that itch, and they, you know what I mean? They start having sex all over the place. But that older woman kicked that off. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she wanted. She knew you was young enough to do it better than her old ass man. Like, so, you know, we gotta, when you talk about age and coming together and things like that, you have to keep all of these things in consideration. I think, you know, the age groups that y'all gave, the gaps, is more realistic, you know.
So one thing to note, that Nia Long's mother had her when she was 22. So by the time Nia Long was 17, her mom was 39. So she was 9 years older than the gentleman that she allowed to date her daughter. So stop and think about that. That they're in that same generation, same kind of age group, right? where your mom is literally 9 years older than the man that she allowed you to date.
Which is crazy. And he came to her. You know, what man is going to go to someone's mother unless the father is deceased? But her father, they got divorced. Her mom and dad got divorced very early on in her life. So, you know, coming to ask the mom is almost is he probably was laughing at that himself because he know what he doing. And he probably thought he was doing the right thing, but at the end of the day, you know, we're your uncles. We're the minute. I know you're not going to step to them saying that you want to date Nia Long. You know? So it was like you taking advantage of the whole situation, not just Nia. You know, you took her mom being an artist and open and free spirited, and you know, that's not always a good. That's why that morals and art don't sometimes go together. Because morals, you have more structure. You're on a lockdown a little bit more than an artist is, who's free, who needs to explore, who needs to, you know, do their research.
Anything goes.
Anything goes.